Thanks for joining us. I'm Laureli Shimayo. This is the Metaphysical Empowerment and Wellness events. We interview our practitioners and vendors who get a chance to know who we are before you meet us in person. So today I'm interviewing Shanti Shivani. So Shanti, tell us a little about yourself and about what you share at our events.
Well, first of all, namaste. Thank you for organizing these beautiful events. I'm going to be sharing sound healing. I mean, part of my work is teaching people how to sing with their whole body. And so I feel very strongly about people being able to help themselves, but very often they need to be jump-started or shifted. So I started doing sound healing after singing myself and practicing the yoga of sound for many, many years. And then I was doing the last year of a 3-year sound healing training, which was actually movement, sound, and color with Fabian Maman, who is one of the foremost pioneers of the sound healing world. And I did the last year of his training in 1993. And that opened me up to many other different ways of working with sound, because up until that point I had been, let me see, how many years had I been doing Indian classical ragas and practicing the yoga of sound? I started that in 1981. So 93, yes, I had been doing that for 12 years. And I was very deep into that. And sometimes I can get a little bit traditional and just want to stick to one thing, but he opened me up to the Japanese sounds, the Chinese sounds, all kinds of different ways of working with sound. And one of them was, of course, also working with sound and energy healing, and with color, which I always knew that color and sound were related. And movement, I had been doing movement practices since I was 20. I started with yoga, and then I moved on to Qigong and Wuqi, which is a form of Kung Fu, and then unity and motion. And then I worked for 4 years with a dancer who worked with sound and movement to open up the body. And so anyway, Fabian Maman's training opened me up to really going very deeply into the sound healing aspect of working or facilitating. Let's put it this way. I feel when I work with people doing the sound healing sessions, the one-on-one sound healing sessions, I am just a vehicle for their guides to work with them. And this was a whole universe that was opened up to me when I was doing the training with Fabian. And I found it extremely fascinating. And it is really the most shamanic part of the work that I do. So what I do is I open up with, usually if I do a full-blown session, I'm going to open up the marma points, which are the Ayurvedic energy points, and they're very similar to polarity points. And I learned this from Dr. Lad when I worked for the Ayurvedic Institute in Albuquerque. When he did his spiritual healing retreat. And so I open up the marma points with my hands. I'm also a Reiki practitioner and Satnam Rasayan practitioner. And then I will use different instruments, like I have this really wonderful 300-year-old singing bowl that a special friend of mine gave to me. And so I'll work with singing bowls, and I'll work usually at the feet. I like to work with a drum. And then I'll go up with different sized singing bowls, so from lower sounds to higher sounds. And then it goes into the bell. The bell is really wonderful in cleansing the lungs. And when I do the work, I get a lot of, internally, I get mantras or I get colors to send to the organs. And then I work with the symbols. That's more of the throat and around the ears. And then I have this wonderful rain stick. And the rain stick, what it does, it clears the mental body. And so then after that, working with all the different instruments, then I start tuning into the person and bringing through the sounds that want to come through. And then they usually turn into songs. And what I love about it is it has absolutely nothing to do with any of the musical training that I've had, any of the many different chants from different traditions that I sing. it's just always fascinating to me to listen to what wants to come through me. And very often we record it. Although I find when people go back home with a recording that it doesn't necessarily much later correspond with the sounds that they need,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Yeah.
the sound recording probably doesn't pick up all of the, right? There's so much more resonance when it's in person, all the dimensions and.
Absolutely. Totally right. Yes. So I was thinking, since most people, as I've been told, want to get samples of your work, that if I do a 20-minute session, I might focus mainly on working with the voice and, using the singing bowl, or if I'm drawn to using the cymbals, or I'm drawn to using the rain stick to clear the mental body. I mean, I never know, as you know. We're just totally open. We open ourselves up and we just receive what kind of work we need to facilitate. So sometimes I've had people who come to me with a tumor, and then the 2/3 of the tumor is gone after one session. I have people who come to me who have had a total breakdown, and then they shift. Other people come, they're looking for their purpose in life, and then I can help them by shifting their energy, and they know what they need to be doing. So it's really also, the results are just so varied,
Do you
depending on
sometimes
what the person needs.
do you
Yeah.
sometimes share like intuitive work by words as well? Do other things come through you, or it primarily is
Yes.
sound?
Yes. So what can happen is that I am told that the person needs to work with a certain spiritual path, because very often they don't. So sometimes, I mean, it was very interesting. I was working with a woman. I had no clue that she was half Hawaiian. And she's on the table, and I keep on getting this message. She needs to go back to Hawaii and connect with her roots. And this wonderful kahuna who I had met in Hawaii in 1994, he showed up on the inner plane for the first time, and he kept on giving me these messages. And then she needed to work with the songs, the Hawaiian songs, the old Hawaiian songs. Well, afterwards I tell her that, she's like, well, I'm half Hawaiian. My father, he became a Christian. He totally rejected his Hawaiian roots. I'm actually, one of my ancestors was the last princess of Hawaii. And so, yeah, totally resonated with her. She went and she studied the Hawaiian songs in Hawaii. And she's, of course, doing hula, and she's singing. And then she left her white Caucasian partner and met a Hawaiian man. And she's like totally integrated into her ancient ancestral roots. Mm-hmm. So things like that can happen. Or I'm told that they need to do like Qigong, for example. You should do Qigong. Or I sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I will receive a mantra. But what's really wonderful is also when I tune into their energy field to actually see their guide or guides. Like it could once an African man appeared. I had no clue that this woman was connected to this African tradition. So that's always really fascinating. So I will talk about that. I have learned, though, in what happened in the very beginning when I started doing the work was that I would see all these past lives of people. And I had one client, I mean, she was really she became quite obsessed with the past lives. And she kept on coming back because she wanted to have these, these stories. And I realized that I needed to just put out, please just give me the information that is valuable, is of service for the person, which at this point in time is what is needed for the person to know. So a lot of that just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And it actually makes everything so much clearer, Yeah.
It's great. It's great. And
or colors, I will, I'll receive, that they have to work with a certain sound or color. I like to tell people, actually, even my vocal students, I will tell them, if they're working on a certain block in their body, to just ask their body intelligence or their inner guides which sound to work with, which color to connect with, and then radiate that color out. Sometimes it has to be the complementary color. Sometimes it has to be the color that will stimulate their system. Other times it's the color that has to cool it down. So that's always really very interesting.
That's great. And I just can see your sense of color, right, and all the things that are around you too in the video right now.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. And then how's a session different when someone sees you privately? And is it in your home? Again, how long, and it's like the different tools that you use? And
It's usually going to be about an hour, a little bit longer if I do a full-blown session.
Mhm.
But as I said, people have told me that for them the most powerful part is when I use my voice.
Mhm.
And I remember when we started the training with Fabian Maman, he showed us this film of it was Kirlian photography showing cancerous cells. And they did this study with sound, with different instruments, sending the sounds of these different instruments to the cells, and then in the end, the voice. And the voice was the sound that dissolved the cancerous cells the quickest.
Mhm.
And you could actually see that in the film,
Yeah.
how they were dissolved by the sound. So I don't tell that to people usually, but they just say, that part of the session, which is usually a third of the session, was the most powerful. So if I am going to do just 20 minutes, I'm going to focus mainly on the voice, but I will have my tools there and see what I'm drawn to using for the different people. Yeah.
That's great. It's great. And so
So I will bring a massage table in any case, in case somebody wants a longer session.
Great. It's great to have all the different options.
Yeah.
And how can people learn more about you on the web?
They can go to my website, shantishivani.com, and I talk about the vocal classes, about my concerts, about the call and response chanting, about the sound healing. I also do, for many years, that's how I started teaching. I was teaching Frederic Leboyer's Art of Breathing for pregnant women and their partners. And there's all these different pages in my website of the different work that I do.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like a lovely mixture. I'm looking forward to very much. And
Yeah, I feel very blessed that it came my way. I used to work in the film business in the fashion world. Yeah, so it's a totally different world.
Great. Thank you so much, Shanti. And for those of us watching, you can learn more about our events at metaphysicalempowermentevents.com. We have fairs now in Seattle, Portland, Salem, and Eugene. We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much to opening all of these wonderful healing modalities and healers to a broader audience. I look forward to seeing you.
You're so welcome.
Namaste.
Lovely.